Barrio 18, Mara 18 or M18, is one of the largest and most notorious transnational criminal gangs in the Americas. Originating in the United States, it has spread widely through Central America, especially El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. Here is a detailed history of the gang. Origins and formation: late 1960s-1970s. Los Angeles, California. Barrio 18 was formed in Los Angeles by Mexican immigrants, many of whom were not accepted by other established Latino gangs like the Mexican Mafia or Ms. 13. Initially called the 18th Street Gang, it took its name from 18th Street, a road in South Central La. It was originally affiliated with the Churanos, a coalition of Southern California Latino gangs under the umbrella of the Mexican Mafia. LAIM, expansion and evolution. 1980s-1990s. Growth and deportations. The gang began recruiting members from other Central American nationalities, including Salvadorans, Guatemalans, and Hondurans. After the 1980 Central American Civil Wars, many refugees fled to the U.S., where their children encountered harsh urban environments and often joined gangs like Barrio 18. U.S. immigration crackdowns in the 1990s led to mass deportations of gang members to Central America, especially El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. This ceded Barrio 18's presence in those countries. Central American establishment and brutality. 2000s. Militarization and territorial wars in Central America. Barrio 18 grew increasingly violent and structured, often engaging in brutal turf wars. With Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13, the gang began engaging in extortion of businesses and public transport, drug trafficking, murder-for-hire, kidnapping. They controlled neighborhoods, often acting like a parallel authority in poor urban areas. In El Salvador, it splintered into subgroups like revolucionarios, revolutionaries, Churanos, Southerners. These factions sometimes fight each other. Government crackdowns and supermax. Prisons. 2000s-2010s. Mano dura, iron fist policies. El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala adopted mano dura, hardline tactics. Thousands of gang members were imprisoned. Prisons became de facto headquarters for the gang leadership. Incarcerated. Gang leaders maintained external communication and control over territories. 2020s. Suppression and controversy. 2022-2023. El Salvador's war on gangs. President Nayib Bukele launched an aggressive anti-gang campaign, arresting over 75,000 suspected gang members. A massive super prison called the CECOT, Terrorism Confinement Center, was built. This led to a significant decline in homicide rates. No human rights groups criticized the approach for mass detentions, lack of due process, and torture allegations. And culture hierarchy includes leaders, palabreros, lieutenants, and foot soldiers. Symbols and tattoos. Members often bear tattoos like 18, 18, or 666. Initiation. New recruits undergo beatings, jumps, or must commit crimes to prove loyalty. Territory. Operates in the U.S., especially L.A., Mexico, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. Present-day Barrio 18 remains a major threat to public safety and state institutions in Central America. It is involved in drug routes, human trafficking, and international organized crime. In some areas, it has lost power due to military crackdowns, while in others, it continues to operate clandestinely. Here's a deeper look into Barrio 18's modern structure, activities, cultural influence, and international footprint. Modern structure and operations. Barrio 18 has adapted over time to survive harsh government crackdowns and internal divisions. 1. Cell-based organization, especially in El Salvador and Guatemala. The gang split into cliques, each with autonomy but coordinated under higher-ranking members. Some cliques specialize in specific crimes, extortion, drug distribution, or assassinations. 2. Prison command centers. Many gang leaders operate from inside prisons, giving orders through coded messages, cell phones, or visitors. Prisons like Izalco or La Esperanza, Mariona, in El Salvador became strategic headquarters. 3. Dual factions in El Salvador. 18 Chirinos. Older, more conservative faction, usually the dominant group. 18 Revolucionarios. Split from the Chirinos around 2005 due to leadership disputes and ideological rifts. Sometimes they fight each other, further destabilizing areas they control. Criminal activities. Barrio. 18 sustains itself through a range of criminal enterprises. 1. Extortion, renta. Small businesses, transport workers, and even street vendors are forced to pay rent under death threats. This has crippled public transportation systems in many cities. 2. Drug trafficking, not a cartel, but they manage local drug sales, serve as enforcers, and in some cases act as intermediaries in cocaine trafficking routes. 3. Homicide and terror. They use public executions, dismemberment, and threats to dominate communities. Areas under their control often have strict curfews and moral codes imposed by the gang. 4. Human smuggling and kidnapping. Collaborate with smuggling networks, coyotes, that move migrants through Mexico to the U.S. Kidnapping migrants for ransom is common, especially along the U.S.-Mexico border. International influence and spread. Barrio 18 has a footprint across the Americas and even beyond. 1. United States. Originally based in Los Angeles, the gang now has cells in California, Texas, New York, and Washington, D.C. The FBI and local law enforcement have launched RICO indictments against members. 2. Mexico operates mainly in southern Mexico, often clashing or collaborating with cartels like Los Zetas or CJNG, has used Mexico as a base for migration control and trafficking. 3. Central America's strongest in El Salvador, deeply entrenched but weakened by Bucal's crackdown. Honduras, active in Tegucigalpa and San Pedro Sula. Guatemala, competes with MS-13 and local street gangs. 4. Spain and other diasporas. In recent years, police in Spain, Italy, and Belgium reported Barrio 18 activity through Central American migration routes, often involved in low-level crime, but authorities fear expansion. Cultural and social impact. Identity. Being in the gang offers a sense of belonging, power, and protection for youth in poor neighborhoods. Code of conduct. Members must adhere to loyalty rules, secrecy, and be willing to kill or die for the gang. Tattoos and music. 18 is heavily represented in gangsta rap, graffiti, and tattoos like 666, 18, or 18. Women, often marginalized or forced into roles as lookouts, lovers, or victims of abuse. Some female cliques do exist. Recent developments. 2023-2025, El Salvador's mega-prison SECOT has caused massive drops in crime, but rights groups claim thousands of innocent people have been detained. Barrio 18 leadership has been weakened, but remnants still operate underground. Some reports suggest attempts to reorganize, even negotiate truces, though these efforts are unofficial or suppressed. Barrio 18 is not just a street gang, it's a transnational criminal network born from poverty, exclusion, war, and migration. Though severely weakened in recent years by military crackdowns and incarceration, it remains a resilient force in the underworld of the Americas. Here's the final continuation of the detailed history and evolution of Barrio 18, covering its Socio-political significance, countermeasures, and the future outlook. Socio-political significance 1. State versus gang dynamics in many Central American countries. Gangs fill the void left by weak institutions, corruption, and underfunded police. Forces in marginalized neighborhoods. Barrio became an alternative authority, controlling streets, resolving disputes, and enforcing their own rules. Governments often oscillated between negotiation, toleration, and brutal repression. 2. Truces and failures. El Salvador, 2012 to 2014. A failed truce between MS-13 and Barrio 18, brokered with government support, temporarily reduced homicide rates. But the peace was short-lived. Once the truce collapsed, violence escalated, and public trust in the government plummeted. Truces also allowed gangs to rearm, reorganize, and recruit. Governmental and NGO countermeasures 1. Mano dura iron fist policies focused on mass arrests, militarized policing, and building large prisons. Criticized for overcrowded and violent prisons. Abusive police practices criminalizing entire neighborhoods. 2. Plan Control Territorial. El Salvador, launched by President Nayib Bukele in 2019. Intensified in 2022. Over 75,000 people arrested in a nationwide state of exception. Led to record low homicide rates, suppression of gang visibility, accusations of mass human rights violations. 3. Rehabilitation programs. NGOs and churches try to offer exit programs for former gang members, for example, job training, therapy, education. Barrio 18 members who attempt to leave the gang often face death threats, making rehabilitation difficult without deep structural support. Digital and tech influence. Gangs increasingly use social media platforms to recruit, spread propaganda, and communicate. Videos showing weaponry, lifestyle, or threats are shared to instill fear or boost status. Law enforcement has started monitoring encrypted messaging apps and darknet activity for gang coordination. The future of Barrio. 181. Internal decline or transformation? Some analysts believe the current level of repression, especially in El Salvador, has decapitated leadership, making a full rebound difficult. Others warn that a power vacuum or shift to organized, silent crime could emerge, more like a mafia than a street gang. 2. Regional threat. Migration crises. Inequality and corruption continue to provide fertile ground for gang influence, especially in Honduras and Guatemala. Potential alliances with drug cartels or international crime syndicates could give them new strength. 3. International monitoring. The U.S., UN, and various NGOs are closely watching Central America's gang dynamics. Legal classifications. In the U.S., MS-13 is labeled a transnational criminal organization. BAR.